Have you ever fallen down a rabbit hole? No, not one of those. A one where you get so lost and so deep and so involved, you forget you're in it. See, I've spent my entire life falling down rabbit holes, to the point where my rabbit holes have rabbit holes, and their rabbit holes have rabbit holes. We've all been there, right? No, not me. I don't fall down holes. I become the hole. I am the hole. See, these patterns in my life have always been present, teaching me weird and wonderful things along the way. Let me take you back to when I was 12, the year 2000, the year I took up online gaming, a first-person shooter, just like any other 12-year-old did. Not me. I focused on the details, the crosshair size, the frame rate, the better players, and their setups, to the point where I started to play for money. Have you ever tried to explain to your parents you want to play a computer game for money? I even quit football to take up gaming. And then it just phased out. Until 20 years later, where more recently I took up gaming again. You see, rabbit holes never really disappear. They just fade out until they're needed again. And then came my 13th year. I joined Army Cadets, just like any other testosterone-fueled teenager did. And I spent hours perfecting my craft and honing my skills to the point where I became the highest rank in the local cadet force. But that wasn't enough for me. I found myself one of 12 cadets representing the United Kingdom on a Canadian exchange, all because I kept pushing and pushing. And then in my 18th year, I joined university, my own place at my own pace. And I hadn't realized that at the time, but off I went down my next rabbit hole. And I spent hours and hours a day studying my degree. And as those hours turned into days, those days into weeks, and those weeks into months, it paid off. I got the highest grade in the School of Engineering. But you know by now, this wasn't enough for me. I joined the ski team, the squash team, the quiz team, every single possible thing I could join, I did. All because I was so deep and lost in my rabbit holes. See, I've spent my entire life, like Lewis Carroll said in Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, off down went Alice without a care or regard at how she gets out, demonstrating her recklessness in her behavior. See, when I reflect on this story, I like to call this story Martin's Adventure in Wonderland, because each and every time I go down my rabbit holes, I do it with more ferocity, more pace, and more depth. But there's always one thing that remains constant. It's always at the detriment of me. And more recently, I've been getting deeper and deeper into the realms of AI. Now, how many of you have allowed AI to become your second brain and your second conscience, allowed it to help and assist in your weekly activities? Not me. I've allowed it to become my first brain and my first conscience, allowed to meticulously plan every aspect of my life. But on the whole, AI to me has been helpful and healthy. But more recently, it's become a little bit darker and a little bit consuming, all in the pursuit of one thing: fitting in. Last year, I was on the way down to the pub to meet some friends at the local pub. Now, to most people, this is a normal Saturday. But to me, I was an anxious ball of mess because I knew there was always one topic that came up: football. A topic I know nothing about. But I turned to what I knew, and as I was on that bus on the way down, I searched in AI, and it gave me a week's summary of the football that week. I couldn't believe it. Cole Palmer had made a shock move from Manchester City. Such a shock to me, in fact, I've never even heard of the bloke. I could not wait to share that. Feel that rush when I get in that room and share that fact. And I did. I shared it. No one cared. No one even looked in my direction. No one even acknowledged it. The conversation just kept going. But what it did for me was allow me to fit into that conversation with relative ease. Now, you may have realized today that my issues are nothing to do with the topics, not the games, certainly not the AI. Because some people would describe me as neurodiverse. But to me, my behavior is perfectly normal. But I've spent my entire life living this charade, behind an impenetrable defense, a wall not letting a single person in, riding those highs of life with not a low in sight. This is the identity I thought I wanted. But more importantly to me, the identity I thought everyone wanted me to have. That pressure was immense. Is this really the life I was longing for? Sweating those small things and pushing those barriers that just don't need to be pushed. I always compare myself to the perfect life, the piece of paper life, because I had the family, the house, the cars, the kids, the holidays, the perfect job. But I just felt down. I kept asking myself, why do I feel like this? People like me don't feel like this. And this is when I did what most of us have done in our life, but this time it transformed my life. I got a haircut. And there I was, sat in a barber's chair, chatting to Callum, my barber. His life was great. His wife had got a new job, his kids were growing up, and his business, it was taking off. But I just felt numb. Everything he said, I just smiled and nodded. You see, this is where it transformed my life. Because as I was walking out that barber's, Callum said to me, "Here you go, mate." And I took it and I put it in my pocket, hidden away, just like everything else in my life. And when I got back to my car, I had a look. And I pulled it out of my pocket. A flyer to the local mental men's health group. Had Callum given me this because I needed it? For me to help someone? Or for me to pass it on? And when I got home, as I walked through the door, I put it on the side. Subconsciously, I think I left it in plain sight because I knew I needed it. And for the following 2 weeks, every time I walked past that flyer, I kept thinking to myself, why do I feel like this? People like me don't feel like this. And the following Thursday, I found myself searching AI. Searching AI, why do I feel like this? And do you know what it told me? Identify your feelings, identify your barriers, and communicate openly. Now, I don't know about you, but what does that actually mean? See, in this moment, I was sat outside a football ground in the north of Scotland, and I was waiting to go into this so-called group. And I say so-called group because I was skeptical. My lows weren't low enough. My problems weren't real enough. People inside this room had real problems. So I ran. I drove home, and that's where it hit me. Guilt. I'd let myself down. People like me don't feel like this. And for the following week, every time I went by that flyer, people like me don't feel like this. So I found myself the following Thursday sat outside the same football ground, outside the same so-called group, nervous as you can imagine. My leg was shaking, biting my nails, searching AI. And then I received a knock at my window, and as I looked up, there he was, this gentle giant. Danny was his name. And he just stared at me. So then Danny leant on my car window, the kind of lean as if to say, I'm not going anywhere. Are you? We'd connected without saying a single word. And I found myself winding down that window. Feel like loon, he said, in his local Aberdeen accent. And I just replied, yeah, are you? Are you here for you? He replied. What a question to be asked. Are you here for you? I didn't know what I should say in that moment. So I just said, yeah, are you? And for the following 10 minutes, me and Danny just chatted. Not about my problems, not about my issues, and certainly not about the solutions. We just chatted. And following that 10 minutes, I found myself following Danny into that room, into that so-called group. And as I walked into that room, I was greeted with 23 faces. And in that moment, Danny introduced me as Martin. Not Martin the dad, not Martin from England, and certainly not Martin the employee. Martin. See, Danny stripped me of my identity, cut me back to my core. Boy, did I feel free. And for the following 2 hours, we all answered one question. And the question came from Danny, who I'd now realized is the facilitator of this group. He asked us, how's your week? And to some people, fine was the answer. To others, it was a download of their life, sharing and conversing and joining in with each other. And as I watched it go around that group, it was coming to me. And you know how I felt? Anxious, scared. And as it came around to me, I started talking, I started opening up, I started flowing, and I started joining in. And as I was talking, I looked over to Danny, and Danny gave me that reassuring nod. The nod to tell me I was doing this for me. And as we were talking, and as I was opening up, it hit me. I was home. Home with a bunch of strangers. United by one thing. Community. And for the following 28 weeks, and still to this day, I go alone to this group, once or twice a fortnight. And I've slowly realized what AI can never offer me. It's that interaction, that human connection. It's that friendship and that empathy. Because all its precision and its accuracy, AI to me can never offer me the warmth of a smile or the comfort of a shared silence. Nor can it hear my voice waver as I tell a story, or give me that reassuring nod to tell me I'm not alone. And I would love to stand here today and tell you exactly how this group makes me feel, and still makes me feel to this day, because I felt warm, and I felt happy, and I felt relieved. But I'm going to try and summarize it in one simple word. I felt hugged. Because it wasn't the camaraderie that changed me in that group. It was the realization that vulnerability is a sign of strength, not weakness. The authenticity of those moments became my new high, far surpassing any rabbit hole I'd ever been in. And I've realized that being the best at everything isn't everything. In fact, it's nothing without happiness. I would love to stand here today and tell you I'm never going to go down a rabbit hole again. I'd be lying to you. The difference is I have a network of people I can rely on in my time of need or just when I want to chat. A foundation built on respect. So if I ask you one thing today, if you sense rabbit hole behaviors in yourself or others, intervene and talk. It's that simple. Thank you.